Hey, cool. Taking questions, trying this randomly, so want to see how it go. Not something we normally do. Flyers nitty gritty as far as live stuff, but if I can get a little less lazy and a little more social, maybe we can make this a thing. Go Caps! Oh, go Flyers! Yeah, that's what's up. Are you a Capitals fan or a Flyers fan, or both? Both. Okay, fair enough. It's a win-win for you. Easy division to root for, I guess. So what happens if they play each other? What's up, Ghost Beer? Yep, yep. Oh, go for Caps. Oh, that's upsetting. It is what it is. You guys got questions or anything? Topics? You want me to answer anything about the game? I'm trying to get more people in here, so I'm sharing. I'm kind of doing it. I'm asking Jamie to do stuff too, because I didn't plan this, which is stupid. Yeah, I know Steel, of course. Yeah, I mean, Sanheim. That's an important one, right? Because not only did he look better today, and I would say overall the team has looked better, and even the Islanders game. I mean, they're actually putting together um, at least consistent play, right? There's not like humongous breakdowns, at least not as terrible as they were. Excuse me. But Sanheim in particular, he needs the confidence. I've said this about him since he came into the NHL. He's the type of player that really requires to have a high confidence to be effective. Like without it, he he tends to fall into the worst habits, which is why I think it took him a little longer to come into the NHL. And you can see that with Phil Myers too. But I think with Myers a little different. I think Myers has more of like a mistake-prone game, almost in the way that Coburn kind of frustrated you always. Like he had everything, but he would kind of make that mistake here and there, where Sanheim can play more of a mistake-free game. It's just like when he is down on himself, it's very noticeable physically and emotionally. Um, but so if he gets an overtime win like that, it's amazing. Yo, Chris, what's going on, buddy? I just spoiled the game for Chris earlier, but yeah, good point on Sanheim. It's interesting because if he can get going, I mean that's pretty important, and you don't even have to think about it this year. Yeah, yeah, totally, Ghost Beer. You know, intention is the right word. I would say the team is playing with more intention. I still, be honest, I've been complaining about this for a while. I still don't like these lines. Like, yeah, the team is playing better. It's good. It's great. Love that. Still not a fan of the offensive line. The idea that Giroux is the third line center. I know they keep putting it on paper, but it's really a joke. Like if you think about it, Giroux already is, I think, two in points. Voracek and TK. Like, is that your third line? And your second line is Patrick, who's been out for 2 years, Hayes, who's having a relatively down year, right? Especially defensively or just overall. And then Scott Lawton, who's essentially optimal third line player, or a fourth line player. So it doesn't really scream second line to you. It's almost like it's a game. Oh, hold on. Let me see here. Chris, from what I've seen, Sanheim has looked very good. Moved the puck well. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think the whole team moved the puck better today. Um, I got to be honest. I think Sam Morin has been highly effective. Not so much with the puck on his stick. He's actually been all right, but just I feel like the Flyers are getting bullied less in their zone. Um, it's paying off. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'm going to go into my own rant. He's been good with goes. Yeah, totally. You think about it, he really. And I was thinking about this today because I was talking about the confidence thing like a second ago. Is because of Ghost. If you watch the way Ghost plays when Morin is around, it is a little bit different, but it kind of makes sense, right? It's not that crazy. That the idea that like Ghost is literally getting pushed around in his own zone physically. And you think about it, and all of a sudden you're paired with a guy who you could say literally is an elite level physical player. I mean, there's not many players. He's dragging tough guys along the ice. And it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. He's only what, 25? Imagine him at like 30 years old with like dad strength. All of a sudden he's got a kid. That always seems to happen. He gets like dad strength, gets a little beer muscle in him, and like, next thing you know, he's dragging 6'4" players across the ice on a regular basis. Yeah, Moose played well. He's played well every game. It's a team game. I mean, like I think the Bruins goaltender, I forget his name even. I got to look it up. He played well tonight, but again, the Bruins play a strong game, and when you're not, when you're playing a good game, you make your goalies look good. We should never see Gus again with the way Ghost and Sanheim are working. John, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I truly believe that the Flyers are trying to move Gustafsson. I think they kind of recognize it wasn't the right signing. And I don't think they dislike him in any way. It's just what he brings isn't worth that money to us. Having said that, I don't think there's a single team that's going to pay his salary unless we take a mistake contract back. And we'll probably just wait it out, right? He's another defenseman, and realistically, he's a kind of an injury guy, so he'll get some games. He's good offensively. It's just his defensive game. Like, he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the tenacity, the NHL level. I don't know how the heck this guy played a top pairing role, but I've never seen it. So, John, I'm kind of with you on that one, especially when Robert Haig comes back. And, there's just talent. There's more talent to go around than Gustafsson. But having said that, injuries happen, and he's probably better than we're giving him credit for. He didn't necessarily have a chance to learn the system as well as the other guys, but he's pretty much just an insurance guy. I don't expect him to be here very long. And again, a guy Cam York's going to come in the lineup. That guy, you don't need a guy like Gustafsson at that point. All right, Chris, what do you got here? Two guys who have been screwed so many times, putting them together. Hey, it's like, do this. Yeah, well, that one goes way back though, Chris. Like putting Morin and I know you know this, but like Morin and Ghost, like conceptually, it's always worked, right? It does make sense what you're talking about, right? Struggling players, and I think they should do that more often. And I said that about Patrick, Lindblom, and I even said Farabee, but the TK line, like let them work it out together. Seen it in the past with Briere, Hartnell, and Villolino. And again, sometimes it just, it's empathy. Burns goalie stole some goals away. Yeah, he did. He definitely did. But again, they play well around him, right? It's also one and done. Yeah, I hate the power play. I'll be honest with you. John, I'm with you on that one, man. Like and again, I get the point of having two power plays. But if you watch any of I had a video on it. It's just about precision on the power play. And I have an elite player in Giroux on the power play. He's just a rare player. Like, you have other rare power play specialists in the league, and Giroux is one of them. Plus, he's elite overall. So, you really want Giroux to be out there majority of the time. You want Giroux out there. You probably want Voracek out there as well. You definitely want Coots, right? That's a must. And you want these guys together. They've also played together. You don't have to have Provorov on the top. You can have Ghost up there, give him another chance, or rotate one or the other. Is an option. JVR, obviously, you're probably going to have up there. And then, you can rotate Patrick in there. But I would say, yeah, load it up. The second unit doesn't, it plays, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I would like to see Jake Voracek in the slot, which has never really been tried. But he's got a decent shot. He's got good size, and he never gets the opportunity to be a goal scorer. I'd like to see what he could do there. I don't know if how great he is at deflections, and I think overall long term, maybe Nolan Patrick might be the best guy there. But he really is a playmaker, so he'll probably get a outside like playmaking role eventually. But Farabee's not strong enough to sit there. Kutsu too. Oh yeah, Chris is watching right now, kind of catching up. It's kind of funny. It's what happens when you pick women over hockey, but it's understandable, Chris. It makes sense. Just kidding. Anybody got questions? Anything else? Otherwise, I'm gonna go into tirades, which is kind of easy. I'll give it a second here. Rant me. Well, okay, rant you. It's interesting. I keep getting hit up online about lack of talent and lack of talent. It's like, how do you explain stuff like this then, right? Like, how do you explain getting pummeled 9-0 and then putting together pretty good performances back to back? I mean, if they were losing the way they were against the Islanders, nobody complaining. We wouldn't be complaining about those kind of losses. We'd be like desperate to add one more piece to put us over the edge to be, a real team. And maybe that's really what we're missing at this point. But I'll say this: if they can get on a real roll, and I'm not saying we're seeing one, I'm not saying it's started. Again, you see stuff like Sanheim maybe getting some confidence. Again, they're all kind of multifaceted occasions, right? It's going to take a lot more than one of those, but it's going to take several times over. Sorry, I'm seeing Chris's messages. Several times over to several players, guys over and over again. They're going to come in and improve their play over the next couple weeks. Now, having said that, Claude Giroux has really stood on his head. I think it's kind of underlying. This team has struggled immensely, yet Claude Giroux has been on fire. And he's angry, and it's every game. And yeah, like Couturier is still playing well, but Giroux still got it. And we're not wasting his years here. But if he can continue to do what he's doing, can he balance out what is happening with the Flyers? Like, can he? This is what I can. Like, people who talk about trading Giroux right now. If you trade Giroux, you're down to nothing. Your entire franchise resets. I don't think that's something you really want to do. Like, do you really want to reset your franchise right now? I don't think this team is at a point like this. And I was thinking a lot about what I would do if I was Chuck Fletcher, Like, what would I really, really focus on if I was Chuck Fletcher? I wouldn't think of this as I don't think of this season as the type of thing as like, hey, we're losing right now, so let's start trading players, and this guy is not what we thought, so let's disengage with him and him and him. I don't really think it's like that. I think the Flyers overall have a plan. They're not going to deviate too far from that plan. The only thing I would hope is that really Chuck Fletcher set proper expectations. That when he decided to go into this season, he knew by only getting Gustafsson, and maybe he had more faith in Gustafsson, but I don't know about that. But I think again, if you are a veteran at your job and you see a bunch of young defensemen, maybe you're preparing your boss for that. You know, sorry guys. Um, you know, that's kind of my thought. It's like you're not gonna you can't say that Chuck Fletcher was only thinking about this year. It's obvious. Otherwise, there would have been a move done in the offseason. Yeah, G has been monster. Yeah, I mean, obviously, people are always doubting him, always doubting G. But it's understandable, but like the team needs to be great for G to be great. And when the team doesn't play well, like it always comes down on the best player and the captain. It's unfortunate, but the city likes to do that. Bruins trash, too inconsistent, and win pointless games. I don't know if the Bruins are trash necessarily. I mean, they're going through their own struggles, but if you think about it, they're missing some talent. That they're obviously missing Carlo, but they're kind of going through what we're going through, right? Like they didn't necessarily adjust well to the COVID season, and you have to think about that. I know the Bruins are a very successful organization, but I do know that I know that their owner is fiscally conservative. He's not going to take humongous risks. And in a season where they're not making a lot of money, he didn't really shell out a lot of money either. And I look at that, and I look at that face value, and I notice Chuck Fletcher doesn't do that either. And I wonder if there's kind of a plan here. Is there a lot of risk around this season in general? And you just look at it with expansion draft, you look at your contract situations, you're just like, maybe it's okay to not be the best team in the league or the best team we can be this year, because there's a lot going on. And if we are too aggressive, we potentially hurt ourselves, beyond that. Love seeing Marchand losing it at the end. He went after Patrick. Yeah, that was awesome. Just because you get to, I kind of wish that he started something with somebody. I don't think that him and Morin would ever be dropping the gloves. And Marchand's a pretty tough guy, but I do think like over time, like Nolan Patrick has becomes an adult, and I know everybody wants to pretend like he is one, but he's really not. He's going to take a while to develop, but eventually, like he's going to beat guys up like Marchand. You know what I mean? You saw Patrick have a little bit of trouble with guys like David Krejci, right? Like he fought him early, but that's an adult versus, I think Patrick was 19, maybe 20 at the time. It's easy for us to kind of equate that, but there really is a huge intimidation factor, and usually like a man's strength that comes with years and years of additional training. It's just interesting. I like that Patrick is getting involved in all kinds of ways. I don't love the line combination that he's on, but I also don't have a huge problem with him playing right wing with Kevin Hayes and Scott Lawton. It is a prototypical third line, big, strong, defensively minded. Again, no idea why they're listed as a second line. They're obviously the third line. They're being used as a third line. Their productivity is that of the third line. It's almost like it's just a troll of some sort. I personally don't get it, but whatever. To each his own. Either way, I don't like the lines as it is. I don't understand the idea of it has to be Farabee, JVR, and Coots. Like, why not just swap Coots with Hayes or Patrick? Keep JVR and Farabee together. They work very well together. Yeah, it was cool, Patty. I love watching Patrick do that type of stuff. Again, I think people are very hard on Patrick. Give him time. If you have extra time of your own, go back and watch Nolan Patrick and juniors. It's gonna take him time. It took Joe Thornton time also. His game is not, dazzling through a bunch of players every shift. He was big, strong, sturdy along the boards, really great vision, precise passer, heavy shot. This is what we're gonna see from him, and a tough attitude. He won MVP trophy as like a 16. I guess he was 17 by the time he won, and he had the injury at the time, and he still won MVP over guys like Provorov. So like it's important to remember that Nolan Patrick has that within him. I think we're gonna see a lot more of that. Give him some time. Like you see Lindblom, we know is excellent, right? He excelled, and then obviously lost a lot of muscle mass. It's gonna take time. When these guys get back up, when they become adults, I mean, I expect more and more of this. That's why the idea of trading Patrick and a first for Ekholm, it's that's the biggest goddamn joke I've ever heard in my life. Let's see what else we got here. Patty needs different line mates or to be playing center. I would like to see Patrick with JVR and I mean, I don't think they're going to change it after a win, but I would like to see him with JVR and Farabee And then I would like to see Coots with Giroux again, which I think would be cool. And then maybe Hayes with TK and Voracek or something like that, or um, I don't know. I would play around with combinations from there. I don't love Lawton that high, but I also don't, I don't pick it apart like that. Like if the team plays well, I want them to play well. They should be able to play well no matter where everybody is. But I do think there's a more optimal combination. It is frustrating, but I feel like by the end of the season, somehow the coaches will figure it out. We'll be like, oh, why did they do this a while ago? Because who knows? At this rate, the Bruins will miss the playoffs, and maybe it's best for them. Well, we're like I said, everybody's counting us out, but there are other teams that are going to fluctuate throughout the season. Like the Islanders didn't start as well. Capitals went through a little bit of their struggles. Penguins are hot right now, but are they as good as they are? Maybe. They still have Crosby and Malkin. It's like that's not a joke. They have talent, but are they just kind of springing up from the new GM? Right, like Flyers kind of hit a low, and statistically, you want to talk about analytics, and I don't like analytics. People know me; I'm not an analytics person. I don't really care, just because I think they're misused. But if you think about statistically how the Flyers are going, right, they're not as bad as their numbers are showing. We know that for sure. That is clear. They perform better than that, even pre this squad, which is more talented, and they had Hackstall. So things will balance out. And if they are very, very low lows, potentially the highs could be very high to balance that out. Now, the balancing out doesn't have to happen in the same season, right? Time is a factor there. So it could be over 2 years, right? And then you look at your balancing out and over 2 years, not as exciting, right? But you just know it won't be that bad. The Bruins will probably, look, if you miss the playoffs this year, you also have a chance to get a great player in the draft. They have no idea who's going to be the best player in the draft this year. I almost guarantee that. I don't think they know who the best player is. I think that there will be a lot of highly talented players that nobody is aware of that will trickle down. So it is about keeping your draft picks, keeping your actual organizational costs low because your teams are missing money. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bruins are okay maybe with missing the playoffs, or at least this would be the only year. And maybe the Flyers are in the same boat. So Jamie and I were talking about, like, don't expect any big trades. I don't expect a monster trade. Not now. I mean, off season, yes. Off season, I don't know if I expect a big trade. Or I don't know exactly what that means. Because I think Matt Niskanen trade I thought was exceptional. But don't expect end of the world like bomb here at the end. I don't know if anybody really is, but if your team's playing the way they're playing, you're not going to invest everything in them. You're not going to go buck wild and go, oh, let me trade my first. Like I always use this example because it makes sense to me. Tampa Bay overpays for Blake Coleman severely, a first and Nolan Foote. That's a lot. That's a lot for that caliber player. But they plan on keeping that player in their core, and they were like a piece away from winning a Stanley Cup. Like they knew they already had a championship squad. They dominated the league, and they were really just missing like a toughness element. So they were willing to pay for that extra. Maybe they'll regret it to some degree, but probably not. They had enough organizational depth. Now we have the organizational depth to pull off a trade like that. But again, are the Flyers the type of team that seem like one piece away from a Stanley Cup right now? Not really, right? So like even if Ekholm is available you're not trading Patrick for him. But if it's first and like Jay O'Brien, or Igor Zamula, right? That's what it would be, a first and Zamula and maybe plus, right? Igor Zamula, I don't know. Actually, I think that'd be a lot. So Zamula in a first for Ekholm, I think would be probably the ask the other way. And then you got to ask yourself, is he going to take you over the edge? Can you protect him now in expansion? You already have a bunch of young players. You had a plan. Now you're rocking that plan because you were hoping just to get in the playoffs. I don't know. It's a dangerous game you're playing, Rather sign Lots than trade him for some, as per some rumors. So with that, I think okay. It depends what position this team is in. If they're really out of the playoffs and you're gonna just let them walk as the UFA, I mean, you can trade him for assets. I do think the Flyers want to keep him. They have an expansion draft. They're not going to want to re-sign him before expansion, right? so they have to protect him, so they lose a slot. I would, if it was me, I would hold a handshake deal with Lawton, and I would wait till after expansion. He avoids getting taken because most likely Seattle's not going to take a guy who's not on contract. You have to fight for him in the open market anyway. Maybe Lawton wants to do that. He could consider to do that anyway. Maybe he wants a big payday. So we have to consider that, and we don't necessarily have the money to give Lawton a big payday, right? I would be considering, maybe there's a package deal there where we package Lawton, package something nice, and try to go out there and get something. Go out there and get a player. He has a cap hit, but not a ridiculous one, so it's movable, and he's a good player, and we like him. So otherwise, either way, we have to try to sign him. UFA. I doubt the Flyers are going to try to re-sign him before expansion. There's too much money at stake, and right now cap money is a premium. That's why we did that ghost wave. They know nobody can take on money. Teams are not making money. They're in the red. They don't have any money. Flyers have Comcast. Toronto has Rogers, right? They'll spend to the cap. We don't care. We have the money. Other teams, they do not, and they don't care. And they don't have the money to, like Arizona, I'd be trying to steal a player from there for sure. Looking at all NHL notable being Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, Sam Girard, Sam Morin, of course, Sam Steele. Who's your favorite Sam? Well, that is an interesting question. I mean, my favorite is Sam Morin, but again, I love Sam Morin, but as a person, if I could take any of those players, that's a good question. Long term, maybe Sam Steele, but I think Sam Reinhart. And people were down on him. This is the whole thing. I get so sick of this. If you look at the Sam Reinhart thing, people hated that pick for so long over there. And look at him. He's definitely one of their best players. And if they were a better team, more people in the NHL will notice. I don't understand what they're doing to their locker room, but fire all of their leaders because there's way too much talent in Buffalo for them to be playing that well and to not be able to keep coaches. Sam Girard, I love, but again, I think Gostisbehere would look even better. People can disagree with me, but when a team plays well, a guy like Gostisbehere would excel in an organization like Denver. So I like Sam Girard, but not for me. Sam Bennett, I would really like in the bottom six, but again, I'd rather take Scott Lawton. Just because I like Lawton, but Sam Bennett would be that type of player to me. Sam Steele, I think, has a higher ceiling than Sam Bennett. So I would look to see maybe he's a top 6 forward, but Sam Reinhart, that's my boy as far as the best. And Sam Morin, I just love Morin. I think he's always was going to be a late bloomer. So everybody always the idea that he would make it to the NHL before the age of 24, a 6'8" defensive defenseman, it's just unlikely. I mean, Chris Pronger was traded for the age of 24. He's a legendary defenseman. Most defensemen struggle. Chara traded before 24. Erik Karlsson, minus 26 at 26 years old, like terrible defensively on a bad team, but terrible defense. He just wasn't good. And Morin is not that type of guy, but again, he has to be intimidating, physical. Try to beat him in front of the net. Try to beat him along the boards. This is the type of guy that I really want to see the Flyers hold on to. And he might be the guy who's taking an expansion, which would be ironic and hilarious. Every year Bruins don't win it. There's a lot of success. Bruins fans never want to give credit to other teams. I mean, but they're a good team. They're always good. They're always competitive. They're like kind of the Flyers, especially the Flyers of the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s. We were always good. Always good, always competitive, always mean, always fighting, I respect the Bruins, but I will say this. I don't look at their roster today and think that's a championship squad. I said at the beginning of the year, I thought they were going to take a step back, but they're about where I think they are. They're still a really good team. And if they go out and get an elite defenseman in there, like if they add a guy that we need to add, like they lost Torrey Krug and they're kind of bailing out a year, but we don't know what they're going to do next year too. And that top line is just sick. I mean, they're not going anywhere. We'll see. Right now, I think the Rangers have the most elite talent in our division. My issue with the Flyers right now is the lack of stability in the locker room. And until that is resolved, talent is not the issue. The Flyers are just as much talent as any team in the NHL, I'd argue. But Again, it's a locker room thing. The Bruins have a more stable locker room than the Flyers, and that's without a doubt, unfortunately. Friedman was quoted saying, I believe the Flyers think that guy loves being a Flyer. The question is, can they get it done? Sounds like it just comes down to money. What guy? Who are you referring to? Elliot Friedman was quoted saying, I believe the Flyers think that guy loves being a Flyer and wants to be a Flyer. Question is, can they get it done? Oh, Lawton. Yeah, I mean, look, I do believe that the Lawton is best friends with Giroux, with Raffle. He was drafted by this team. His whole family, his life is here. He just got engaged. I highly doubt he wants to move. I mean that. And I think he would even give the Flyers a discount. I think the Flyers' overall goal is to keep him. Only if the Flyers are out of the playoff race do I see them moving Lawton. But I do see them holding off on re-signing him. He's a guy that I think every team should covet. And if he's in your bottom six, you should be very comfortable. So I agree with you. I like him. And I do think Friedman is probably right. I think the conversations are really positive. Overall, Raffle is one of their best guys too. He might not be here either, even though I know the Flyers love him. If he's willing to take a smaller role, he'd potentially be an AHL guy, which maybe he would do. I mean, I don't know if they give him a one-way contract. But yeah, I mean, I love Lawton. I love Raffle. I would try to keep both of them, at least Raffle, within the organization. If he'll play for I would make him captain of the Phantoms if Raffle would be willing to do that. So yeah, I think he'll give the Flyers a discount because I think he wants to stay here. But he has an option to test that market. He's going to make some money if he wants it. What are the issues to the locker room, John? You know, I have not been able to be in the locker room once over the past year. Same with all of our writers, and that includes practices. Like we used to be able to go around the squad from time to time, so you get at least a little bit of a read. Now we're not detectives, and we have no idea. And anybody who tells you really knows, I would say nobody knows outside of a handful of guys. I would say Bill Meltzer is probably one of those guys. Jason Martinez, like these are guys who they're around the team so often. Brian Smith that works for the Flyers, like they're having real conversations. We don't even hear a lot of that. Some of this, they're not going to tell us. Now, as far as the locker room, it's interesting because I see all the signs from AV of a guy who's about to lose his job. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to lose his job, but how many coaches have you seen survive a 9-0 blowout, an 8-3 blowout, a 6-1 blowout, a 6-1 blowout, a 6-1 blowout? Like I saw Lavi get fired after 3 games after making the playoffs. Terry Murray was fired after going to the Stanley Cup Finals the year before. It's, I think there were some maybe expectations set. I don't think they expected that bad, but maybe the Flyers didn't expect their team to be as good as we thought. Now, these blowouts are embarrassing and definitely shouldn't be happening. And I would argue, if it continues to happen, I don't expect AV to be coaching here next year. And it would be a shame if this organization started finding that acceptable to some degree, because these blowouts are unacceptable. Now, we've seen him right the ship, and I think AV is a smart coach. It's just really about losing a locker room. Did he lose the locker room? I have no idea. I don't want to jump to that. Is it a freak month? We don't know. We don't know yet. We have to see how they respond to him. I want to, I look a lot at Giroux. Giroux is not giving up. Giroux is the key to the whole thing. And anybody who doubts that, look at the way he plays, the intensity in which that guy brings every night, and he never throws any player under the bus, ever. You never hear anybody say anything bad about him. Recognize that. Just think about it being an employee. Think about an employee where your job sucks, and the guy, your manager, never throws anybody to the bus. The hardest working guy there, stays positive, gets ratchets up their intensity to help everybody around them and performs. That is the exact type of leadership you really want. I think that's key. And I don't know what's wrong with the locker room. I would say confidence. And I think Giroux's got a lot of it, and the other veterans do too. There's a lot of players that require this. When you see guys like Phil Myers and Sanheim take steps back, Patrick and Lindblom work their way back, TK take a step back, and Farabee being so young, it compiles, and maybe we just underestimated it. I think they need another voice. I think I would love to see like the same type of thing. We brought in Chris Pronger. The organization took an entire step up. I think they're going to be looking to do that. Something like that. At least the Lawton Niskanen guy. If I should hold off on signing Lawton. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, handshake deal. John, that's exactly what I'm saying, you know? Um, and honestly, we have other guys to play Lawton's role if he does get a big deal. That's why I was saying if you have an opportunity to trade him in a package for something you really need, like a defenseman, and a team is willing to move a defenseman and they like Scott Lawton. If you're trading for him, you're probably re-signing him and you're probably protecting him. Right. But he's young enough and talented enough to do that, quite frankly. We're stocked. We have a lot more talent than most teams. And we're not playing that well. But we do. We do. There's a reason we're one of the favorites. Should Hayes sit? That's a good question. I would say he's playing the most mediocre he has since he's been here. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'd let him work it through. I don't know his relationship with AV, but I imagine that they know each other pretty well. If he hasn't sat so far, there's a reason. We also don't know what's going on in Hayes' life. Maybe something's happening, but he doesn't look like the same player he did last year, the year before that, or the year before that, actually. I would say this is probably a low point. Having said that, will it balance out? Will he get out of it? Let's wait and see. Should he sit? I don't think it would kill him, but it would probably hurt our team a lot. And I don't really think we can afford to do it, unfortunately. So wouldn't do it just because it hurts everybody else. He plays such a pivotal role. Yeah, I think that's why Travis Sanheim hasn't sat, because he plays a much larger role for this team than Phil Myers. And Sanheim has played poorly at times. After a couple of days off and practice, they seem to play more as a unit tonight. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's something to that about practice and playing together, just clearing their head. That's why maybe the Flyers played a lot of games in March. They also played a lot of games. And it's always a game of inches. So to us, it looks like chaos, disorganization. Maybe it's because they didn't get to practice. And that sucks. That sucks if that's the case. But again, other teams are dealing with this as well. And I look at coaching and I go, well, why didn't you figure out supplemental, solutions? And I look at our coaching staff, to be kind of honest, they're kind of old school. And I think about my career. I mean, again, I work in IT. I was well prepared for COVID. I mean, my lifestyle to COVID was already set up. And I'm not trying to brag, but like I already worked from home. I already have a gym at home. Like my mindset was always be self-efficient, kind of like with what I need. So it worked out for me. And with the tech stuff and the camera, like, right, I do the video. It works with my actual job. I don't know how prepared our coaching staff was for something like this. That's what it seems like to me. Maybe Chuck Fletcher gives him a benefit of the doubt. That was kind of my thought. So, practice in person, maybe it's a huge, huge difference, especially for a guy like AV. So it's not on the players, fracture, more likely coaching. It's on everybody. When you see what you're like, it was a spiral, John. It's a spiral, man. Like you're watching a team go from being united. I mean, generally, it's not the exact same team, right? But this is the same core. A lot of the same guys. There's a lot of guys in this organization, right? Kids who come in every day, right? It's a full organization. Even the AHL guys, they're coming through. Like Tanner Lazinski is new, but he's not that new. Like the guys in the locker room know who he is. He's been at camp every single year, right? He's been with the organization. So something happened. I think it's a spiral. It's maybe, lack of voices. Is it fractured? I don't know if fractured is the right term. If you think about it, if you're going through something, right? And you're leaning on the guy and he's going through something and the other guy's going through something and there's not enough voices in the room and you're on D, specifically. And yeah, you have your offensive core, but your D and you're talking to Justin Braun, who is a really good dude and can help you out, but he can't go out there and do the job for you. Where like Matt Niskanen kind of could, you know? Niskanen could. He could do your job for you. He did a lot. He did a lot. So it's like in those moments where things got really tough and everybody got rattled, like Niskanen didn't get rattled. I mean, I would say Provorov is also pretty good at that stuff, but Niskanen didn't get rattled. And I think that's what this team is missing. And there are certain guys who don't get rattled. Again, Drew, Couturier. I don't think Voracek really does. Maybe sometimes his anger takes over. I don't know what's going on with Hayes, but guys like TK get rattled. Um, Young guys, young guys get rattled. And I don't think we have enough veteran leadership in this locker room. And I think it's unfortunate, but it shows that we weren't ready for COVID. I mean, not, and I think that's what Fletcher refers to. We don't have the right voices, you know? I think, look, even like I was talking about earlier, Sam Moran, just the ability to have this guy on the, like, eh, like Ghost gets thrown in the corner. It's like 2 minutes later, like Sam Moran could be there. He'll fuck you. And all of a sudden, like throws 3 guys away. It changes the entire attitude of that shift, right? It's not the same all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you don't get pushed around. You get pushed again. You get pushed around, and Sam Moran comes up and knocks somebody in the face or just throws them away off of you, right? It just changes the tone. And these, quite frankly, media created diatribes about size doesn't matter anymore. Nonsense. This is a young man's game. Nonsense. I'm showing you examples how none of this is real. None size absolutely matters, and it is yet not a young man's game. It's only a young man's game because they're paying them less money because of a salary cap. It is not a young man's game. Young teams lose. Let me see. Sorry, other stuff here. Let's go Flyers. Yeah. Smooch the dog. That's what's up. Fair enough, Dave. Yep. About Hayes. Again, he hasn't played great, but I don't know. Are we better without him? I hate benching at this point. I get it, but it's just so frustrating. It's just a representation where your team's at, right? It's like I don't get angry at the coaches. I'm kind of like, why is this happening? Too much goddamn team, too much talent. It seems the boys have the urgency to win now. Yeah, they better have the urgency. And it sucks, Dave, because it's the same thing every time. Even when they went to the finals, they barely made it in. And that team had Chris Pronger on it. And they went from being first place to collapsing. They had more talent than like every team in the league. And I guess we didn't have a goalie to an extent, That was Holmgren. I still say Holmgren's biggest mistake as GM is not recognizing that Leighton and Boucher were just not enough, and pre-trade deadline or at the trade deadline, not going out and getting another goalie. Should have got another one, a good one, like one as good as Ray Emery, because Ray Emery was not coming back, and he was your starter. Yeah, 2 games come from behind. They're definitely, I like it. Again, no quit, and that's what I want to see till the very end. I love when Jake gets angry. I think he's awesome. I love Voracek's attitude. I don't think he is the best assistant captain in the sense, like, I don't think he sets the tone that I want my overall team to be, but I think he's an element very much needed within the team. Like the tone I'd really like that's why everybody likes like Jonathan Taves. Like ultimately, maybe Joel Farabee will end up being captain of this team one day. He's got that character, that tone. Cam York has it. I'm just naming young guys there. We'll see if Nolan Patrick has it. Obviously, Sean Couturier is probably going to be the next captain of this team after Giroux. He definitely has it. Do they seem to be playing taller, bigger? Same thing? Yes. Yeah, John. It's funny how it can happen, right? And Sam is just, again, I'll say it. He's not even... Like, he's still going to be bigger and stronger, and he's still making up for lost time. And I've talked about it before. I talked to knee specialists about this. Like, oh, they're like, no. Like, he's definitely... if Embiid can still be a star with all of his knee problems and still come in and not just be a player, be like arguably, from what I'm told, like the best player in the league at this point. It happened later in his career. It took longer than most people like, right? Everybody got upset. The Sixers took a step backwards. All of a sudden they bring in a couple players and boom, boom, boom. They're dominant. And all of a sudden they're amazing defensively, right? It does take adjustments. The Flyers will probably have to make some. Because even if the Flyers improve, it's too fragile to probably be a Stanley Cup contender. Like realistically, you're gonna have to do something. Puck luck has been non-existent. Yeah, but it's coming. You know, it's coming. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation, and I do find that that is true. And I don't think the Flyers were making their own luck. Like if you watch the way they were playing, like yeah, it was bad luck, but they played like shit. Like let's be honest, they played poorly. Like all these plays where you can look at like, oh, Phil Myers gets beat, Phil Myers gets beat, Phil Myers gets beat. Carter Hart gets lit up. Oh, over the glove, over the glove, over the glove. Who cares? Look at all of the breakdowns that led to that play. Why is there? It's over and over again a guy in the slot with no coverage lighting up Carter Hart's glove hand. That is the problem. You know, we very much look at the result of the problem and go, "Oh, that's the problem." But it's not. It's not the problem. You know, it's a team play issue and you know, for whatever reason this team just lost the ability to play defense as a unit and they're building on that again. It just drives me nuts. But yeah, that's how you make your luck, right? If they're consistent and they make the right plays over and over again, the luck appears. It's like we used to play the New Jersey Devils, or if you know anything about the Islanders today, they play a relatively boring game. You know, like Barzal is exciting. What they do is just wear you down with process, and they know you're going to get frustrated. They know you're going to make a risky play, but they will not. They will not. They will stick to process. They will stick to simple plays, and inevitably you'll wear down. You'll have a bad shift. You'll make a bad play. You have a young player, and they'll get you. They'll get you. Again, they make average goalies look better. Ghost responding better since placed on waivers. I don't think the ghost on waivers has to do with his play. I thought about it quite a bit. Didn't make any sense. He's not playing worse than anybody. They benched him for a couple games again against the worst team in the league, and they played Gus. They sat a couple guys out. I think that was planned. That they kind of recognized. I think they expected more out of their organizational depth than to lose to the Sabres 6-1. You know, that doesn't. I think it really is the money. I think there's a lot of value on cap space this year. I don't think you're going to see some weird trades, in my guess, and you're going to see like how the heck did they get that player? And it's going to be like, well, they were able to eat his salary. Because again, if teams aren't making money off the season, they're already losing money as an organization. I mean, these jobs, like you're losing job. Like, how do you keep your staff, right? So if you have a chance to cut from budget, right, and you have a guy who's making $6 million a year, and you're like, well, I can bail out for the year. You know, I'll bring in a replacement for him at half the cost. You know, because everything's different. People take new contracts, so you try to get rid of a guy. You know, I think that's where the Flyers can get lucky here. Maybe pick up one of these contracts that scares teams. You know, and I think that's why they did the waiver thing. That extra million will count. You know, and maybe Fletcher is working on something. I don't know if it's for this year, but I think he recognizes that that cap space is more valuable than a player, and it seems to be more valuable than draft picks at this point. So something to keep in mind. I do think Ghost, if you look at his underlying numbers, Appleyard has a good tweet about this. He has the best underlying numbers on the team analytically, and that doesn't surprise me. At least, you know, moving the puck out of the zone. He really is. He hasn't played poorly this year. Again, when you see him get beat, why is your offensive defenseman like the last line of defense? You know, it happens. Why are they coming in with so much speed and an odd man rush? Like the fact that these things are happening on Ghost, it exposes weaknesses over and over again. Putting more in with him helps, right? But when a team plays well, you know, you can hide a player's weaknesses. Like a guy, the defenseman in Colorado, like I was talking about Samuel Girard earlier. Like, come on, you're telling me Samuel Girard doesn't get pushed around? Of course he does. Of course he does. They're just getting by. They're getting by on having him play different roles, right? He's making different plays. B takes a step forward every year and easily. Agreed, but he is. Yeah, no, agreed about the Embiid thing. You know, he does take a step forward every year. They do. People are impatient, right? And I don't want to compare him to Sam Morin because Sam Morin's the expectations of him should not be anywhere near close. Like Embiid, I understand he came in here with very high expectations, right? As well. It was always known that he was extremely talented. But again, you know, like you're saying, people are they're not patient, but he did get better every year. But when the team got better, like now the team wins without him, right? They lost their two best players are sitting there still winning. That's not a coincidence. You know, that's a sign of a good team. Flyers need to be able to play like that. That's why when I'm like, when players are out, like Niskin's out, they're like, oh, it's because Niskin. I don't care. I don't care. Then your team sucks. Your team sucks then. And it hurts to say, but if you are a team that literally needs one player to be competitive, you suck. We know that that's not true. And that's how you know it's not a talent issue. You know, if anybody's really doubting, like, is Carter Hart really that talented? Please do not let people do that to you. Do not. Enjoy him. Please recognize what is happening. Everybody shat on Carey Price too. They still do it today. People shit on Drew Doughty. They shat on Shea Weber when they was traded for PK Subban, even though Shea Weber is clearly the better defenseman. You know, like, it's just it's always like there's a narrative that we just create. We don't need to do this. Things fluctuate always up and down. Ghost goes unprotected to Seattle. I wouldn't be surprised if guys making money go unprotected in general this year, because I think Seattle's gonna be scared. I think they'll expose Ghost. They cannot afford to protect him. They really have to stick with their best option, which is the 7 forward, 1 goalie, and 3 defensemen. If they modify to 4 defensemen and 4 forwards and a goalie, you lose out on a couple protections. I don't think they need to protect Patrick. I think there's certain guys, like if you're not on your ELC, I think you're okay. I don't remember all the rules, and quite frankly, I've heard a lot of some stuff that's true and some stuff that's not. But overall, I think they're going to go with a combination of that. I think Phil Myers, Sanheim, and Provorov will be the ones protected. I think Ghost will be exposed. NAK, JVR will probably be exposed. I don't think Voracek will be exposed, but they could risk it anyway just because he's a big contract, and they could be like, well, if you're going to take him off our hands, you know, we'll take the cap space. But I don't really think the Flyers see Voracek as kind of a throwaway guy. You have to protect Hayes. You have to protect Giroux. They both have no trade, and obviously you protect Giroux. Hayes, you could potentially expose Hayes too if he wasn't, but he built that contract in on purpose. Overall, I think like the biggest risks are going to be like NAK, maybe Morin if his play continues to improve. Robert Haig, Shane Gostisbehere, Alex Lyon, JVR will probably be available. Maybe Voracek, but I don't think so. Won't be any of the young guys. Like I said, Lawton's already out. Yeah, I mean, there's not, you don't really have much choice. So let's say you lose Ghost, right? Okay. You got Cam York. It sucks, but you lose Ghost and Gus. You're not really short offensive defensemen. You still have Zamula in the system. You have Wiley. You have Cam York. You have an opportunity to draft another defenseman this year if you keep your first round pick. And you have salary cap space, which, technically, you have all the assets to make a move. So, like, if you really want to move even a little bit of money, there's going to be a humongous reshuffling in the league, most likely during expansion. I mean, this is my opinion, so obviously I could be wrong, but like, this is how I see it, right? If you're looking at a fiscal economic situation, you have teams who are losing money left and right. Majority of teams are not making money at all. The NHL overall is just trying to break even at this point with the cost of managing COVID, plus all the chaos and all the nonsense around it. Nobody's making any money, right? So Seattle's going to come in. They're not coming in like Vegas did anymore. That's no longer the same guarantee that you're going to walk in that season and bank a bunch of money, because you don't even know if you can fill your stadium. And Seattle is not the type of location that's just going to throw caution to the wind to COVID. That's not going to happen, right? So they're going to be more conservative, right? Maybe a guy like Ghost is too expensive. Maybe they go for a guy like NAK because NAK is extremely affordable and they can protect him and use him, and there's an actual NHL role for him. And there'll probably be other guys available I'm not aware of. But again, this is the type of situation that Seattle will think of, is that maybe they're going to go for a lot of these kind of guys where they have value, but their cap hit is a little lower. Or maybe they do deals with teams to try to, maybe teams will retain some money. Not only that, teams are going to see it as an opportunity to be like, well, I'm trying to shed salary, so have at it, Hoss. Take whatever you want. I need to get rid of money, and it's not whatever you want, but whatever's really expensive, that I've had trouble getting rid of, like JVR, right? or ghost. That people are asking me to retain money. It's like, okay, well, no money retained. So it's going to be weird. Expansion's not going to be the same as it was last time. They're not going to be as good as Vegas, in my opinion, because of the fiscal uncertainty. I don't think teams are going to be excited to trade assets like young players or draft picks again to retain players. I don't think that's going to happen again. So it's going to be a whole different thing. And I think there's an opportunity here for the league, coincidentally, where you need teams to reshuffle money around. So there's going to be teams that are going to be willing to take dollars on that other teams are not rolling into next season because they're going to be like, well, we're not 100%, capacity yet. And potentially, we need to, we need to shed a little bit more salary here at the end. So you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity for a lot of these teams to, okay, well, we're the Flyers. We can take on cap. How much money you lose this year? Okay, well, you got to shed $7 million. We don't. We'll take him. Right? So you got to think about things like that. And then you got to look at a situation where I don't know if this is a good one, but like San Jose Sharks, are they retooling? Are they restarting? I don't think they're restarting, but there's some teams that maybe are resetting, or there's a free agent out there where we can give him a lot of money for 1 year. Just like Taylor Hall, right? He was willing to take 1 year, but $8 million. And, we can do that especially if it's for 1 year and it's for a defenseman. We were willing to give Matt Niskanen, right? That first year, we ate $1 million of Gudas's cap hit, plus, everything we did on top of that, or everything we gave on top of that to Niskanen, right? You were looking at 575, I think was his total number, plus the $1 million you're eating on Gudas. You're talking about a $7 million defenseman, right? So what is a $7 million defenseman? Thanks for that. Yeah. Yeah, the advertisements on the helmets. I'm okay with it. It's whatever. They need money, man. I'd rather have that than people lose their jobs. The one thing I hate, though, is the reality is once it comes in, it's not leaving. Just like a law, just like policy, right? Or government programs. You don't create a government program and it goes away. It never goes away ever after you create it. The odds of it going away are almost like a 1% chance. So that's kind of the downside of all this. But having said that, there is an opportunity here that, we kind of get past some of our boundaries. The NHL kind of adjust, maybe make some smart decisions. And the league could be the most profitable it's ever been coming out of COVID. Again, it's a reshuffling. It's a scramble, just like, economically you see money going around, right? We see a larger divide between the 1% and the 99% in this country than we've seen in a while. And that money allocation, like you look at Bezos, his wife took half his money. He made that all back in 1 year. So just think about that stuff. The Flyers have the NHL has an opportunity to be aggressive. And that ESPN deal is probably part of it. Interesting to see what the Flyers team shows up with in 20 hours. Yeah, consistency, Dave. They haven't been consistent this year, so I do expect them to put up a good effort, and I expect them to win again. I do. I don't expect this team to fade quietly into the night. I kind of expect them to still make the playoffs. I know I can't even believe I'm saying that after everything I've seen, but it's like I wouldn't be that surprised. Like, would you guys be that surprised? How many teams have you seen in the Flyers where we're like, yeah, they're out, and then all of a sudden, a 10-game run, and the Flyers are somehow in the playoffs? Or last year when they went on a huge run at the end, and they were good last year, right? So when they went on that run, when they turned it on in the second half, it just projected them to be the best. Yeah, exactly, Dave. Right? It's not a good sign. No, I'll say this. It's like you don't want to be that team. Having said that, most of the teams that win tend to do that. Like Tampa Bay, they were really bad in the start of the season. They had to put it all together. St. Louis before that, really bad, had to put it all together. I'll say this, and it's also why I do the Always Level Up podcast, is that the one thing that is very consistent with success is failure. And the teams that suffer can put up with the pain and suffering of the playoffs. So potentially, again, I'm not getting ahead of myself, and I have not seen a sign of this. We would need to see a streak, a turnaround, maybe a trade, whatever happen, but not what we've seen so far. but enough pain and suffering can accumulate with enough talent behind it. And again, if you turn that around as fuel, we saw with the Eagles, right? Like they're down and out. The people are like, oh, the Eagles had all these injuries. They had injuries before that too. They had the injuries when they won the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the same injuries. Obviously, I know they were worse. I'm not a football guy, so people tear me apart on that one. But, you know, again, they had injury. They persevered. If you remember those speeches, they persevered. Nobody was stopping them. Nobody was stopping the Eagles that year. There is something to that. There really is, unfortunately. And that's where leadership comes in. And that's why you want more voices in the room. You want guys who know that, and that stuff comes from consistency. It comes from doing the right thing every game. Then that's why you go on a 10-game win streak, right? Because maybe you're like 6-3 or 6-4-1 or 6-3-1 or 5-4-1. And then all of a sudden you have you go 8-2-1 or 8-2-0 in a 10-game streak, right? Or you go 10-0 in a 10-game streak. That's really what you want to see from your team, is that you're winning games all the time. And that's why that month of March is so bad, because the Flyers just really could not put together any consistent play. And that's why it was so alarming. Like there was no consistency. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if I were the Rangers, I'd be worried about the Flyers for the rest of the year. I don't know how many games we have against them left. I don't think we have many, but we should have a couple left. Just again, on average, the odds of them winning those games after the dominance that they put together, it's possible, but the Rangers are not that good. I know they made. That's why it's even more upsetting that those games have. They're really not that good, but Buffalo's also not supposed to be a 6-1. This is just what happened. I mean, Lausanne beat us 4-1. They're not even an NHL team. And when you don't play well, like pros can make you look really bad. Like there are nights where you're like, I think the Phantoms are better than the Flyers. It's not true, but when you play poorly, like NHL teams, they will eat you alive. All right. Getting close to 11. I want to wrap this up pretty soon, but I'll take some more questions. This has been fun. Anybody have anything else? Oh man. If they would have lost today, everybody would be just livid. As if we need to be any more hopeless at this point. Let me see if I can talk about anybody else. Lazinski, again, I think AV has a way of bringing guys in slowly. So, yeah. Maybe your sister should punch some of the Flyers players in the face when they play that way. They would probably even agree. It's got to be a freak moment for them. It can't be fun to go to work that way. They could use another voice in that room. They could definitely use another voice in that room. I think Nolan Patrick is playing more, and I like Nolan Patrick a lot. I am such a huge fan of that kid. People think I'm probably crazy because I'm so high on him, but man, if he just again, I look at the skill set of what he has, and I account for everything he's gone through, and I'm just like, as a kid persevering, I really want to see what he comes out to be on the other end. Claire, do you think the Flyers will make a trade at deadline to focus more on things during the offseason? Yeah, I said this in the beginning. I think the Flyers will work. They will have next season in mind with whatever trade they make. So that means if they are making a trade now, the guy will probably be short term and somebody they do not need to protect, and probably will not cost too much. After expansion, it gets interesting. I do think the Flyers have an opportunity, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to be more aggressive. I just don't see it because it kind of screws up the protection policy for them. But there is an opportunity. Like there will be a reshuffling. There will be defensemen available. If we can get an elite defenseman in here, I mean, I can really take this team to the next level. So I think they'll make some kind of move. I think Comcast is expecting it, even if they barely make the playoffs. Again, that is revenue. I think the Flyers are not very interested in looking outside of the playoffs. So let's just say that I think they are willing to spend money, and like money matters right now more than, money matters. Money matters this year more than ever. It's important. Do you think Clark can come down and talk to these guys? You know, I think that I don't think that would help with Clark and Perrant. I think it has to be. I think of a guy like Rod the Bod Brindamore, and I think about this because like I exercise a lot, right? And if you go like to personal trainer, and I've seen this before, and you go see and that trainer just kind of standing by you and he's just watching you work out. Maybe they're not even in the best of shape. I've seen a lot of that. They're typically do not get the best results. The best trainers I've seen are the ones that are out there doing it, getting it done. Um, the guys who can lead by example, lead by doing. Now, Rod Brindamore, that guy can probably outrun most players on his team. So you try showing up to camp out of shape. That's all I have to say. Like I think that's the influence. That's why Yarmer Yager shows up on your team and people, you got to straighten up your act because your behavior next to Yager, you look pretty bad. If Yager's after the game doing laps and you're a young guy and you're going home to go play video games or, go get drunk with your buddies at the bar or, go hang out with a girl, whatever that they want to do afterwards, right? And you're not putting in that extra effort, how does that look, right? Everybody all of a sudden is kept honest. These are things that are real, and I'm a young guy, but I'm not that young. And I've learned over time to change my process, my daily process, right? These kids, they need to learn that from other people in the room. It's like every night, I don't know how these guys are going to sleep. I don't know how they're waking up for games. I don't know why they're not coming in. Again, ducks fly together. I'm going to keep saying it's cheesy as hell, but does this team look like ducks fly together? Maybe a little bit now, but not, when they're at their worst, hell no. Dougie Hamilton, Claire, I love that idea. I think if he's available, I think he would be the Flyers' top choice, to be honest. And I do think that they would go for him. I do not think he's going to leave Carolina. I think they invested too much in him. I think they'll probably move a different defenseman. But yeah, that's the caliber of guy we're talking about at this point that we would look to bring in here. I think there will be one available or something like him. It doesn't have to. I would actually prefer somebody not even Dougie Hamilton. Because I would prefer somebody older. Like I would take somebody kind of run down a little bit. I'm cool with that. Give me a 34-year-old defenseman. It's at the end of his career. I would have loved even Zdeno Chara is 40, but like give me a guy who can play both ends of the ice. Like and Madness was perfect. A guy who played both ends of the ice, is intimidating physically, maybe to some degree, does not get intimidated by other players, has been through a lot of situations, has can either lead by example or lead with his words. That's what I think the Flyers really need. And I don't think that typically is the guy that everybody wants in free agency. Maybe Pietrangelo, he would have been perfect, right? But if we can get a guy, even a poor man's version of Pietrangelo, I would take it. Yeah, I'd take Pietrangelo at the end of his career. Even Jay Bouwmeester he's too old now, but Jay Bouwmeester at 35, right? Like that type of guy. I think that would be immensely valuable. Mark Streit, if you guys remember, he was good till he was like 39. I would love a guy like that. Kimmo Timonen. Yeah, no problem. For coming on. And I did this, just kind of on a whim. Bill Matz always inspires me. He does really well with these. I don't know if he's still doing them, and maybe I'll be able to get a bigger crowd. But I just kind of threw it together last minute. I was like, if people like live stuff, let's do this. I don't like tweeting. I hate social media. It just doesn't do it for me anymore. So, video I like. I like talking. I wish people could talk back to me. It'd be kind of cool. But the messages are awesome. So yeah, keep sharing, and I'll try to keep doing this. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah. Sanheim definitely vastly improved performance. I expect him to be better and better as the season rolls on. It's not. That is the Travis Sanheim that we're seeing right now. That is not Sanheim. Like I've watched this kid way too long. He is far too good to get beat up the way he is right now. It's all mental. I've been saying if you can watch stuff, I don't even know if my older stuff's out there. I've been saying the same thing. My opinions do not change about these players quite often. If they do, it's very minor. But I'm not trying to be cocky, but I pay attention to details that other people do not. Okay, I've noticed it early. This is why I'm so high on Cam York. I'll tell you right now, Cam York. When I first saw him play amongst other Flyers player, just even within drills, he looked like a pro hockey player and nobody else did. So if you want to think about relative to everybody else, and mind you, he's 6 months younger, this was also 2.5 years ago. This kid, you can see patterns in players. I saw the same thing in Joel Farabee. Um, so Sanheim, again, I always saw him as a guy like you'll notice. I promise. I don't want to promise anything, but I would imagine by the time that Sanheim is about 25, 26, 27, and he becomes like a real adult, he'll be like, oh, this is because he'll stop getting rocked emotionally. As he matures, you'll see less fluctuations in his game, and he really has all the skill in the world. But him and Myers need to work on their physical strength for sure. Yes, a cheap veteran D man. You were 100%. Yeah, Dave. I mean, he might be expensive, like cost wise, but I don't think he'd be as expensive to get onto your team. I'll pay him money. I'll pay him money, especially after expansion. I mean, like it. Who would you rather pay money? And I think JVR has done a great job responding this year. But if we could have a player who's very good on defense for $7 million a year, I mean, we need him. We need goal scoring. Goal scoring comes from a team play, though. Do we need a goal scorer? Goal scorer? Yeah, every team needs one of those. I would say Joel Farabee is slowly becoming one. We should give him a little bit of time there. Flyers have drafted some guys like Allison's got a phenomenal shot. He's going to probably make the NHL pretty soon. I don't know how likely it is that we're going to get a goal. Typically those guys kind of show up out of nowhere. Like you don't know, like Simone Gagne had 19 goals his rookie year. Okay. Scott Gomez had 19 goals his rookie year. Simone Gagne was a 40 goal scorer. Scott Gomez was not. You don't know what these players are going to be, really. You have no idea what a goal scorer is until later in their career. Like David Pastrnak was not drafted to be a 50 goal scorer. He turned into one. So we have to keep that in mind. Like TK has a chance to be a 40 goal scorer. It might not seem like it, but nobody thought Couturier would be a 40 goal scorer. He put 37 goals one year and probably could do it again. Again, if this team can really start getting rolling in the power play, God damn, this power play. And the power play can really get going, then you will see goal scoring. Goal scoring is a team element. If you have a guy with a big shot, it is important. It would be nice to get a guy who is a shoot first mentality. I would say I think Farabee will be that guy. Still, I'll repeat that. And maybe Allison, but there aren't a lot of guys. If we could bring in one guy like that, I think everybody would welcome it. But we don't necessarily have the role open on this team. We'd have to move somebody. Like you'd have to move Voracek for Pavelski, right? I'm just throwing out a name there. It's not going to happen. But again, and Pavelski's more of a shooter, right? And even he's not a goal scoring, but we have to move a guy for a guy like that. And goal scorers typically they're streaky. They're a lot of times not good at D, and they're one dimensional. So people say it's what they want. But at the end of the day, unless it's an elite goal scorer, you probably don't want them because they're not always Simone Gagne who puts up 40 goals. That's why I love Joel Farabee. They're not always putting up 40 goals and playing the PK and playing top. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's the guy who plays on your second line, like Line A, who, obviously is not the best player overall. Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate the compliments, man. Yeah, everybody's working so hard, and everybody's writing so much, and Jamie's just like a savage. That guy works his butt off. So it's awesome to have such awesome people around. So thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it. It's awesome that we're hitting Toronto. Love that. Your media is crazy, but I enjoy Toronto hockey coverage quite a bit. Actually, I love Toronto's coverage of hockey. I love the obsession that they have there. It's awesome, John. Cool. No wonder you guys know about hockey. You're in Canada. That's awesome. Makes me feel good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Any other stuff? I'm probably going to wrap it up here. We did like an hour and almost 20 minutes already. And it's kind of getting late. But thank you, Crime Family. Claire, thanks for joining. Appreciate it, Claire. Claire kills it too. It's it's don't lose hope. It's easy to lose hope. It's easy to lose hope when things are down, and I mean that honestly. And sports, like everything, is a reflection of life in general. It's very easy to feel like everything is gone and broken when things are down. Hell yeah, Ghost Beer. I know who you are. Next win. Very easy to panic. Very easy to spiral, right? And I think it's important to remember this. Remember this in your own life too. Like when things go wrong, like it's not a representation of where things will always be. It's just where things are right now. Right. So that's why it's important not to panic and not to trade off assets. And, and if your team's not good enough this year, well, what are you going to do to make them better next year? Right. I don't know, Dave, if they believe in the system. That's my concern as well. I don't know if I believe in the system. And that's my concern is typically I am more patient. And I did like the system last year, but I still question the line combinations. The power play makes my head hurt. The penalty kill is taking a step backwards. And everybody statistically has taken a hit to some degree. Now, again, is that a representation of the COVID season? Potentially. So I don't want to jump to conclusions. And quite frankly, AV did such a good job last year. He kind of bought himself leeway. I mean, I think he deserves it. And as long as the players don't stop responding to him, he will be coach of this team. But if they tail out, like if they like, even if they believe in the system, but it just doesn't produce anything, like I've thought about this too. Like maybe it's not the right coach for the right team too, right? Like could be just a great coach. It's just the mix isn't right, and the way he wants to play is not the best way to play. Again, I am completely speculating. And I'm not saying this is the case, but that could be the case with AV even down the line. Like yes, it's 2 seasons, but we had a year where we missed off. Right, this is real time. Right, it's like it's not per season; it's real time. It's interaction, human interactions together, stuff going up and down. We don't know what happened in between breaks. Did AV do a good job keeping up with the players? Did they do a good job keeping up with him? Did the players train hard enough in the offseason? Were they as prepared physically as they should have been this year? I don't know. I don't see that. And I don't want to knock everybody's conditioning or anything like that. I don't know if that's the case. Like I know about Patrick and Lindblom. That's a given, right? We know that they weren't going to hit those measurements. Even if we wanted to believe, it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic for them. But you see Phil Myers, a big, strong kid getting out muscled, and like, yeah, it's confidence and all that. But I also want to see you be stronger than everybody too. You're big. So I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. Let's see how they recover. Let's see how is it the system? We'll see. We'll see by the end of the year. He's obviously not getting fired. He would have got fired already. They already hit the low, like pretty low, low point. If he gets fired, it'll be because the team there's no improvement. There's no improvement going. Because then how do you sell that to the fans if the team just fizzles out worse and worse? But the Flyers will probably wait for expansion, and it'll be an interesting offseason. We'll be there covering it. All right, last thing we get here, Dave. Oh, the Jonathan Bernier. Yeah, I don't buy it. Dude, I'll be honest with you guys. I think majority of rumors are absolute bullshit. I don't think majority of them are true. I think that there are names that have been thrown around. They get passed through like a broken telephone. I think maybe 20% of them have ever been close to even being a trade, and I think majority of them are absolute nonsense. I don't dislike Jonathan Bernier, but Brian Elliott is better than Jonathan Bernier. Jonathan Bernier has underachieved considerably almost everywhere he's gone, and Carter Hart is considerably better than all of them. And unless you really don't believe in Alex Lyon, which I don't think is the case, and plus you have two guys who are playing very well in the AHL, it doesn't make a lot of sense to trade for Jonathan Bernier. Just like it doesn't make any sense to trade Nolan Patrick in a first for Ekholm. Rumors are a waste of time most of the time. And it's unfortunate because I used to love rumors. I used to be the guy who refreshed all day. Tell me, give me, and then you realize none of them happen. And if you guys want, most rumors, you can break them down beyond the fate, like irrelevant of who the source is. If you play the role of the GM and you play devil's advocate against yourself and you just start throwing out trade, kind of do it in NHL if you want. It's at least, it'll give you some indication. But if you just throw out stuff and you just look at your team scenario and you're just like, well, why would I do this? Like, literally, if you're not in panic mode, which if you're a GM and that's how you trade, like, if your thought is, "Well, Nolan Patrick's broken, so let me throw a first, and, Patrick's value's down, so let me give you Patrick and a first because I my team kinda stinks, so let me try to make my defense really good." No GM, if you're a GM who thinks like that, please just see your way out. Goodbye. Goodbye. That means you have no idea how to negotiate. The idea is always to negotiate from a position of power. So anything that people are saying is just majority of the time it's just absolute nonsense. Um, if we trade for Jonathan Bernier, it's because Detroit's trying to just remove cap, or it was an opportunity to move money the other way, or Brian Elliott was moving the other way, and it was a trade for next year, or Brian Elliott is retiring, and they're talking about a trade for next year, or maybe they could take on Bernier's money because they don't have any. All of these things are possible as conversations, but how it makes the Flyers better is beyond me, and why the Flyers would make that trade at a time when they have different issues. Again, the goalie, I don't agree with people. I don't agree with Lance, even though I think Lance did a great job with that article with the Steve Mason, reference. I get these are trauma moments for as a fan, but it's not real. I'm sorry. I don't agree with. Typically don't agree with anybody on majority of these scenarios, but I do not agree with anybody. I think Carter Hart is so freaking special. It's not even funny. So like when I see people panic, I roll my eyes about this stuff, to be honest with you. I really do. Just like when people told me Sam Morin was done, I roll my eyes. I roll my eyes. Like if you guys think like I don't think TK is on the verge of being a 90-point player, like I said, he's still on his verge of doing that. Just because he's not going to do it in the time frame that we want it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything. Everything's a journey, and most of the journeys go like that. And if your team's not playing well, don't expect your young players to be excelling. That is very rare. And the fact that Farabee is able to do what he does shows that this kid might end up being the best of the whole crop, which nobody expected outside of maybe a handful of people. All right, I got one more thing in me. Anybody got one last question? I'm at an hour 30, so yeah, Carter Hart's not even supposed to be on an NHL team. So anybody who's evaluating him or telling you there's a reflection of his maturity, this is all background noise. I could care less. Yeah, there should be no panic with anybody. And I made a video about Scott Lawton 2 years ago. I said, "Is he done developing?" A lot of people said he was. He's not even done developing now. It's easy for us to limit other people, but the reality is that I'm 33 and I'm not done developing. So, yes, sports have a limit. The limit is not 22. It's not 23, it's not 24, and it's not 25. Typically, it's when I would say in men's case, when they become men, like real men, not like I'm a young guy who's like, searching for a girlfriend and stuff like I would say, are you in dad mode? That would be a pretty good indication. Are you a man? And I don't mean like, are you a man? I just mean like, you don't have to have children. I just mean like, are you responsible for other people? Is that your thought process now? Are you somebody who's regimented? Are you consistent in your life? That's typically what it takes to be a parent, right? That's what this team needs. That's what this team needs. That's why Brian Elliott's very dad-like, right? Do you really want Jonathan Bernier, who struggled mightily, to come in here and hang out with Carter Hart? I like Jonathan Bernier, but I'd rather have Bernier come in and be like, hey, look, Carter Hart's going to play majority of your minutes here. But, if you can steal some time from him, that'd be cool. Like I said, to us right now, Bernier would be a third string. So, all right. I'll leave you guys on this note. I think the Flyers, I expected them to win today. I think they're going to pull some more wins out. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs in the end, but it's going to be like this all the rest of the year. I mean, it's going to be tooth and nail. They're going to probably go on some kind of spurt. I do think Fletcher will make some kind of trade. I don't think it'll be as exciting as everybody wants, but it could be cool. Could be really cool. Nobody was that excited about the Niskanen trade. I personally was I couldn't even believe we got Matt Niskanen. He is like a guy in NHL when I was playing video, like I would bring him onto my team. Kevin Hayes, I was less excited about the Kevin Hayes trade. I was more excited about Niskanen. And I actually think Niskanen's a better player than Kevin Hayes. He was the best move that Fletcher's done. It was a phenomenal trade and nobody saw it coming. Notice the rumors thing. We didn't hear any rumors about it. Funny how all the trades that we actually have, like that we actually see and that are epic, nobody saw them coming. Yeah. Except, some of the signings, sure, but there are very rare exceptions. That these are the outliers when they get them right. And all these guys are legit, like Friedman and McKenzie, like these guys are legit. And when they talk about it, yes, there's some murmurs and they've heard the name, and I get that. But it doesn't mean it's anywhere close to fruition or actually going to happen. It just means they've talked to people in high places. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that, man. I don't have a problem saying what I need to say. And honestly, I've been a quiet Flyers fan for a long time prior to starting Flyer Nitty Gritty with Jamie. And um, I've said this stuff privately to people around me, just nonstop. I have no interest in being a journalist, just so everybody knows. I'm not a journalist. I don't want to be a media person. I don't want to be famous, and I don't want people to know who I am. I don't care about any of that. I want to be GM of the Flyers. It might sound ridiculous to some people, but that's my goal. If I don't hit it and I get somewhere close, that'd be cool. At the very least, I'm out here talking to people. It's fun. So far I've been in the Flyers locker room and I've met Flyers players, people in the organization. I never thought that would happen. But again, that's my mindset. That's why I talk the way I do. And I'm not really interested in the media mindset. I find it boring, redundant a lot of times. That's why I love guys like Bill Meltzer, because he just gives it to you straight. And I don't agree 100% with what he says, but very rarely do I think he's out of line with anything. And they're media people I respect, and they're really, like, even Charlie O'Connor, I respect him quite a bit. He's a little younger than me, and he knows his stuff, and he's very reasonable and rational. But majority of media stuff, I hate. Rumors, also, it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my time. Like, saying, oh, if we had this one guy, this stuff is a waste of my time because it's not hockey. Hockey's a team sport. Game of inches, unfortunately. So let's hope the Flyers have a better performance. Thank you guys for joining. I'm going to do this again. I might do this actually more often. I don't know. We'll see. I'll talk to Jamie about it. It's been going well. Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody should be kissing Taryn Hatcher in the Me Too era, but yeah, I have met her kind of briefly. She is as spunky and awesome as she seems on TV. I don't know, like, hockey knowledge, how much she knows. Like, I know Katie Emmer used to play hockey and whatnot. But she is really good at her job. Like Taryn Hatcher, give her all the credit in the world. Like, what she does as a broadcaster, like, I can't. Maybe I could do some of that, but she's sharp, she's quick, she's witty, she's fearless in the locker room. From what I saw, she has no problem asking anybody anything. And obviously everybody's like kind of in love with her too. So I think it's a nice win for her. Yeah. It'd be cool to get her on the podcast maybe one day. All right. Thanks, everybody. Do it again. And let's hope we have another win to talk about. Remember to always stay gritty.